Hello everybody, welcome to the United Stands, your legends. I hope you're all doing well tonight. Slightly early because of the 8 o'clock Carabao Cup tie, but that doesn't mean we haven't got loads to talk about. Do you believe the lies? Do you believe that Manchester United are not going to appoint Southgate? Do you believe that Man United are going to focus in on people like Tuchel, Ancelotti and Enrique? Are Manchester United forcing Bruno Fernandes out of the club? Some very exclusive information we've got for you tonight around Bruno Fernandes from a very, very, very good source. Also, Marcus Rashford is set to snub Manchester United if they try and bring him back, even if there is an opportunity for Man United to play a 4-3-3 and him on the wing. We've got a few little bits around transfers as well, but as I say, lots to get into on the show. Plus, it's an evening show, so we're driven by you, good people as well. Let us know what you want to talk about. But I'm going to start off with this exclusive around Bruno Fernandes that I was told this afternoon. So remember, I think it was last night we were talking about this story about Bruno Fernandes potentially leaving in the summer. He thought about it last year. He's very close to Amorim. Amorim persuaded him to stay. He felt the board were pushing him out a little bit. We've got an interim till the end of the season, a new project in the summer potentially, whoever. There is a feeling that Bruno will go in the summer. However, in response to that video we did last night, I got contacted by a very, very decent journalist who said to me, and I can't give their name because I think they'll write the piece. They said, the feeling is that Manchester United will force Bruno out anyway. The feeling is that they tried to move him last summer and Amorim wanted him to stay and Man United wanted to take the money, regardless of where Amorim was going to pick him. Well, with Amorim gone now and the new manager not likely to come in before the summer, Bruno is going to get forced out the door. And that's the feeling around the club, is that regardless of what Bruno wants, the club will force him out, which is why Bruno did the interview a couple of months ago saying that he felt the club were forcing him out. And with Amorim not there, who is there to persuade Bruno to stay? He doesn't have much of a relationship with the board anyway. The new manager's not in play. Carrick has no say in saying keep Bruno Fernandes. So it's almost like, well, Bruno might decide to go, but there won't be much holding him back from United's side. And if you look at the massive list of things that Ineos have done badly since they came into the club, one of the things they've been absolutely clear on and tried to do is erase the biggest earners from the top of the pile. It's interesting about people thinking Rashford will snub Manchester United, and maybe he will. But removing Amorim doesn't actually remove the problem for Rashford, because Rashford felt forced out by Wilcox and Ineos as well because of his big wage. They've tried to sell Casemiro multiple times, but Casemiro, no one will pay his wages and he won't go. And Bruno, they tried to sell last summer apparently. So I don't think there's going to be, from what I was told this afternoon, much of an effort from United's part to keep Bruno Fernandes. Now, I think that could be a big mistake. And that's not being a hypocrite. I'd love to know what your thoughts are. I want to get a bit of a poll going here. Would you keep... Oh, I've clicked something wrong. I've hit the wrong button. Would you keep Bruno if he's a 10? Yes or no answer. Just get in the chat. Because for me, if he's a midfielder, I completely agree. What's the point? You sell him, you use that money to buy a real midfielder. But if he's a 10, I think he's got so much to offer to the team. I really do. I think Bruno Fernandes in the number 10 position is one of the best, if not the best, number 10 in the Premier League. And we are not in a position, last time I checked, to go, yeah, it's a good idea. Now, I know, Ricky FC might be going, well, let's get rid of him. We need to move on, says Blue. But we are shit. We are factually shit. And we haven't got any money, really, because we're ignoring the January window to make up some bullshit about what we're going to do in the summer. We desperately need 2 midfielders and a wide player today. That's before anybody leaves. If Bruno leaves, you need another player. If Casemiro leaves, you need another player. If Maguire leaves, you need another player. And suddenly, letting all these players go in the summer might be the right thing to do. But we already need 3 players without getting rid of anybody. And then it's 4, then it's 5, then it's 6. And whilst Maguire and Casemiro should go, in my opinion, I don't think Bruno Fernandes should be going if he's playing as a 10. And I'm not going to get confused about that. As a midfielder, yes. As a number 10, I think you're losing a hell of a lot for a team that's going to be, lacking experience. And, he does deliver a lot of goals and assists. So for me, as a number 10, we should be trying to get him to stay. But I don't think Man United make footballing decisions. And I think when they look at the wage and the fact that he's going to go and they're going to get a transfer fee for him, I think he'll be gone in the summer. That's where I sit on it. But look, let everybody have their say on it as well. Just while you're thinking about that, I must just bring this in. I saw this today, and I'm not somebody that discriminates against good comments. I thought this was a really good comment. So it's United Analyst on X. January 2025, Man City are in 6th place, Man United are in 14th place. The City board recognise the run of poor form and league position and spend over 180 million on Mamouche, Gonzalez, Kushkunov, Reece. Man United bought in Dorgu and Heaven. January 26, Man City 2nd place, Man United 7th place. The City board recognised the need for reinforcements to challenge for the title and bring in Semenyo and are negotiating with Guehi. Manchester United strongly rumoured to be willing to spend nothing in January. These owners, both Ineos and Glazers, have no footballing ambition, just want a spreadsheet to look green on the financial side. And sometimes the most simplistic analysis is really, really good. And look, this is Manchester. There is an importance to Manchester, right? Our biggest rival may be Liverpool, but the Manchester derby is happening on Saturday and it happens twice a year. The same as Liverpool and Everton, the same as Arsenal and Tottenham. Are Arsenal's biggest concern Tottenham? No, it's Man City. Is Liverpool's biggest concern Everton? No, it's probably Man United or the title. Is Man City's biggest concern Man United? No, it's probably Arsenal at the moment. But your local derby really does matter. And how you behave really does matter. It's like your neighbour, isn't it? Your rival might be across the road or in a different postcode, but your neighbour, if you don't get on with them, there is a competition there. A big competition, because it's very visible. And when you look at the last 2 January transfer windows, Man City in 6th, we're in 14th. They spend a load of money, we don't. This year, Man City in 2nd, we're in 7th. They spend a load of money, we don't. It couldn't get any more simplistic in that. You couldn't analyse it any better. It's atrocious. And how people keep making excuses for this, how people keep thinking it's okay, I just don't know. I think it's absolutely shocking. And, there are so many things they've done wrong. But this, to me, is criminal. How they just keep ignoring the January transfer window is stupid. Absolutely stupid. Hope you're well, Mark, in the United Stand. Hope you have had a great day, says Daniel Thompson. You too as well. Hope you're doing well, Daniel. And Ali says he is by far our best player, by far, but I can understand he's got a short career. He's going to want to win trophies, says Ali. Well, 63% of you would keep Bruno next year if he's playing as a 10. 37% of you wouldn't. Look, again, it's really easy to respect a different opinion at the moment. If you wanted Amorim out, I respect it. I don't think you wanted Amorim out for fucking Ollie and Carrick to get interviewed for the interim for half of a season. And I don't think you want Amorim to get sacked because he fell out with Wilcox about transfers. I think you wanted him to get sacked because of results and we bring a decent manager in. I haven't got a problem if you want to sell Bruno Fernandes because you think now is the time for him to move on and Man United to move on. But I don't think anyone wants to sell Bruno Fernandes so the Glazers and Ineos can save the wages and, make a load of money out of him. That's a business decision. We should be making footballing decisions. And I think this is a good point as well. So many of Manchester United's decisions are based on business. Let's sack Amorim because he wants to spend money on transfers. Let's sack Amorim because he needs another $500 million to build his system. It's all about money. Let's get rid of Bruno because he's on a big wage. Let's get rid of Casemiro because he's on a big wage. It's all business. The number one thing that would change this football club overnight is if we had owners that just put football first. Put the football first. They never have. They never have. Conor Gallagher to Spurs says, Gira, slow sports news there. Slow sports news. Slow sports news. Okay, there is a lot for me to get into tonight. Make sure you smash the like on the video and subscribe and keep getting your comments in. We've got nearly 7k watching already, you absolute legends. Right, there's a couple of things coming in from Sky, which Rob Dorset, I do have to shout him out because he actually was rather accurate in relation to what went on with Carrick and Solskjaer, etc. So he has spoken today and basically said around Gareth Southgate, there is no desire for Manchester United to bring Gareth Southgate into the football club. He is not under consideration. You know how I knew this? Because I had a load of people tagging me in saying Goldbridge is just scaremongering. I do not care. You know me, I do not care about people taking the piss out of my opinions. I am not bothered because I get proved right more times than I get proved wrong. 2 weeks ago, I was a big, massive moaner. 2 weeks later, I was absolutely right to moan. I think I felt like saying to Rob Dorset, trust me, bro. Just trust me, bro. I don't believe it. And Matthew Gartell says few. That's, it's great news. It's absolutely great news if Gareth Southgate isn't going to be Manchester United manager. In fact, get the champers out. We're having a disco. No Southgate, have that. Come on, that's not me doing anything sexual. That's me getting ready to pop it off, which also looks sexual, but that's what they do on the F1. They get it out, they shake it about, and it spews out the champagne. But, I'll be more than happy if Southgate isn't going to be Manchester United manager. I would love it. Absolutely love it. Do I believe it because Rob Dorset on Sky Sports News said it? No. Would I believe it if Sir Jim Radcliffe put it out there? No. Would I believe it if I don't trust anything about Man United. What they're doing on Tuesday ain't what they're doing on Friday. Yeah? Man United could say on Tuesday, we'll never, ever, ever, ever have Ollie Mers as an ambassador for Manchester United. His music is rubbish. And on Friday, if it works for them, if he's going to do, a 10-month arena in the new stadium, oh yeah, we love you're an ambassador. So they tell true lies. That's why it says it on the thumbnail. Do you know what a true lie is? I know what a true lie is. When they say they're not going to do anything, they mean it, but in their head they're going, we might change our mind. So at the time it's true, but it's also a lie because they'll go back on it. Ineos are the masters in true lies. When Sir Jim Radcliffe stands there or sits there and says 3 years for Ruben Amorim and sacks him 3 months later, when he said 3 years, I think he meant it. But he gets proven as a liar because he changes his mind. Jason Wilcox was doing a stand-up interview walking around Carrington with MUTV in October when we'd won 3 games in the bounce, talking about, only 3 months ago, talking about how, how important the project was, how they were going to back this manager, how they were going to spend money on this manager. 3 months later, he's sacking him because he's been stood up to. True lies. They speak like it's the truth, but it's lies. So I really, really hope that we aren't going to go for Gareth Southgate, but I don't believe that we're not. I think at the end of the day, let me put it like this. If Man United are under massive, massive pressure, right? Massive pressure for making really bad decisions, and then the fans figure out you might be going for Southgate in the summer, what do you think you'd do from a PR point of view? Do you think you'd let those rumours carry on and put more pressure on yourself? Or do you think you'd go live to them that we're not getting Southgate, make them think we're not getting Southgate so they shut up, and then we'll just do it in the summer, and then we'll get away with 5 months of moaning? So until we've appointed the next manager, I ain't removing Southgate. And if you want to be naive enough to go, well, they've said they're not getting Southgate, cut them some slack, stop being so negative. If you want to do that, if you want to take your foot off the pedal of pressure because you think we're not getting Southgate, you do you. I do not trust this ownership at all. They couldn't lie straight in bed. So I think the reality is I am still keeping Southgate definitely in there. Regardless of what newspapers or journalists or anybody else says, I would expect Manchester United to be briefing that they're not in for Southgate, because why would you brief that you are? It's like putting petrol on the fire, isn't it? Yeah, we are looking at Southgate. They're not going to do it at the moment. Big up Mark from Canada. Our club is screwed, says Michael. And hi Mark, Manchester United is much like my country Nigeria. Both are giants in their field and both are suffering from poor management, says Henry. Thank you very much. I'd miss out on Europe again. More pressure on the board. Less players are interested in us, says Limarv. And name a better duo than Goldbridge and the Body Warmer, says Nick Perry. I am sort of addicted to it at the moment, but it is cold today. Where the heck is Delit, says Asher. Yeah, good point. I don't know. I don't know what that's all about, to be honest, in relation to Delit. So there we go. Will United Stand share the post from the 1958? What post is this, River? I don't know what you're trying to do here, River, because we're the biggest Manchester United fan community in the world, and we constantly talk about the need to remove the owners. We were talking about emails to Andy Burnham today. What are you moaning about now? We haven't retweeted something. We literally retweeted about their post at the start of the week. Oh, shit, we haven't retweeted something. Oh my God. Grow up, mate. What are you even talking about? I don't even know what you're talking about. It's never enough, is it? It's never enough. And yet the Glazers have been here for 20 years and you're moaning about a fucking retweet. What? I mean, I know I'm overreacting. I've just realised I'm massively overreacting. But it's just never enough for some people, is it? There's always something to fucking moan about. Are you going to retweet this? No, we're not, mate. You know, we purposely sat there and thought we're definitely not going to support something to remove the Glazers from Man United. We've done it on purpose. We've done it on purpose. Thank you so much for exposing the fact that we're so bloody negative, you know? No, you know what? Sometimes it really pisses me off because you get these smug shits in the comment who start going, aren't you going to do this? Aren't you going to do that? Piss off. Negative. It's because of people like you that we get division in the fan base because it's always point fucking scoring. I actually hate protests. I love protests, but I hate them. Can you remember a few years ago when there was a protest, an official protest, and then fan media, social media, not fan media, they did their own protest the day before or something like that. And it's like, what the fuck are you doing? Why are you competing over protests? Some people, when it starts to be about protests, they see it as an opportunity to try and lead it from social media. I don't want to, I've got no interest in it. None. I just want to support whatever thing will remove this ownership and change the regime for totally selfish purposes. I just want Man United to be good again. And for Man United to be good again, we need regime change. And whoever can come up with that has our support. The fact that you question that pisses me off. Getting relegated would solve 90% of our problems. Owners would have to sell. I completely disagree with this, Sammy. And you've done a super chat, so I will answer the question. Getting relegated will solve 90% of our problems. Well, you speak to people like Ricky. When we got relegated in the 70s, loads of fans enjoyed it. I mean, they didn't like getting relegated, but they actually liked being in the, Division 1, Division 2 then. The camaraderie, the crowds were massive. They won every week and they bounced back into the the First Division. If we get relegated, I don't think it'll impact us much at all. I really don't. I don't think it will force them to sell. I think if we get relegated, it might spark major outrage and protests again. But 46 games instead of 38, I mean, we're playing 40 games this year. You play more in the Championship, which is 6 games more for money, plus the Cup games. It's nearly 50 guaranteed. So they'd still get the matchday revenue. It'd be slightly reduced in relation to what your prize money and your TV money is. But I don't necessarily think relegation is the thing that gets them to sell the club. I don't, in my personal opinion. We should realise Man United is not in the Carabao semi-finals, says John. Getting relegated would solve 90%. I've done that from Sammy. Love you, Mark, but how do you get wound up so much? You know what? Biggest ball knowledge. I think it's what makes me very irritating and also charming. I can just lose it over little things because I'm passionate. I can't help it. If I'm passionate about something, I'll say it. At least I'm honest. Remember when Lenny Yoro said, trust the process, says CB? Yeah, he never should have said that. I would say to any member of Manchester United, whether you're a player on the board or anything, never say the words, trust the process. It's a jinx. It will haunt you. How does Southgate's name keep getting linked, says George? Because he's available, he's English. I don't know. But, love the United stand, says stupid question, I guess, my bad. River, let's agree to disagree. We do get people who try to shit stir, and obviously you weren't, but I don't apologise for reacting like that. It wasn't really personal to you. It's more to the point scoring people when it comes to protests about, you're not doing this, do that, do this, why aren't you doing that, why aren't you doing this? I've had so many people messaging me going, we're about to do this thing, do you want us to lead it? And I'm like, we already have worked really hard to build relationships with certain fan groups, and we know what they're doing, and we already support it, and we already make people aware of it. So, I know you don't do cash, but can we get 2 to 3 decent end of contract players if Bruno and Rashford goes? Their transfer fee and wages. I know you don't do cash, but we can get 2 to 3 decent end of contract players if Bruno and Rashford go. I don't even know what that means, Kyle. I don't even know what that means. Well, have you heard the latest thing about Marcus Rashford, actually? I mean, it's quite interesting. So apparently he would snub a return to Manchester United. He's loving life in Barcelona. Obviously, he had an issue with Amorim, but he also has an issue with the board, who sold him. Apparently Sir Jim, Ineos, Wilcox, Barada, he doesn't like them much either. So it's not like Amorim's gone and he'll come back. And also, more importantly, he's very happy in Barcelona, which he should be. He's moved on. He said he needed a new challenge, and he's got one. I respect that. He's a good player, and he needed a change. The fact that Man United might try and bring him back, it wouldn't surprise me. They tried to bring Ollie back, but apparently he's not interested at the moment, and who can blame him? But Barcelona are trying to apparently reduce the fee. It's a set 28 million. They don't want to pay it. There's talk of another loan deal with an obligation to buy at a cheaper fee, which, to be honest, if Barcelona and Rashford decide to push Man United will have to take it. We will, because Rashford only wants to play for Barcelona. So even if someone comes forward and says, well, we'll give him 28 million, they've still got to give him 28 million, him 300 grand a week. So I wouldn't be surprised if Barcelona ended up getting Rashford for another year on loan. I wouldn't be surprised. They've got us by the balls and they can twist whenever they want because Rashford's with them. So, I don't know that we're definitely going to get a load of money about that. There we go. Julian Nagelsmann is interested in the United job after the Summer World Cup, apparently, says Mr. Darkseed. Well, I wanted to talk about this. I wanted to know what your thoughts are on this. So, again, from Rob Dorset on Sky, he says, Manchester United have learned a lesson from appointing Amorim and Ten Hag. They need someone who is one of the elite world coaches. Someone who is a big name, who has the personality to cope with the size of the club and the unique challenges it possesses. So, sounds interesting at the start. Man United, Amorim and Ten Hag, respect. I was happy that we got them. But obviously, they'd done well at Sporting and Ajax. They'd never managed in the Premier League. Lots of people were looking at them. Hipster managers with the potential to be the next Pep, the next Tuchel, whatever. United don't want to do that again. Fine. United are talking about Tuchel, Ancelotti, and this is where it gets weird. They're talking about Tuchel, Ancelotti, De Zerbi, Silva, Glasner. Last time I checked, Marco Silva, Oliver Glasner, and Roberto De Zerbi are not managers who are elite, world-class coaches. Marseille, Fulham, and Crystal Palace. They feel that these are the people who can deal with the size of the club. Man United are not expected to make a similar mistake they made to Amorim and Ten Hag. Well, look, if it's Tuchel, Ancelotti, and Luis Enrique, that's going for a very different type of manager. They're all three very experienced. Whatever you think about Tuchel, he's managed Chelsea, he's managed PSG, and Bayern Munich. Ancelotti has, funnily enough, managed all of those as well. And Enrique has managed Barcelona and PSG. So they are the profile of managers that Manchester United should be going for if they're looking for world-class coaches. But I don't know why De Zerbi, Glasner and Marco Silva are being thrown in there. I really don't. I mean, personally, this is a platform to say what you think, regardless of whether it's going to be popular or not. I don't think Glasner is the right choice for Manchester United. I know I've heard Beth talk about it. I've heard other people talk about it who I respect. But to me, Glasner doesn't appeal. In fact, I want to run a poll on that. 62% of you would keep Bruno as a number 10 next year. Let me just run this. Would you take Glasner? Just a yes or no will be fine. The reason I don't want Glasner is because I find his Premier League football like Thomas Frank. I think it's very, very based on defensive organisation and ruthless counter. That's not Man United. That's not Manchester United. We talk about DNA. There is a United way, and it isn't soak up pressure and counter. So I don't like that style of football. I think you're making a mistake straight away. He also does play with three centre-backs a lot, which is what we've just decided we don't want to do at great cost. So Glasner, and also Crystal Palace, he does well with Crystal Palace, but, it's Crystal Palace. So for me, that is not enough as far as I'm concerned. So no, I don't think Glasner fits. De Zerbi, look, for me, De Zerbi's an interesting one, but it's a risk. And De Zerbi to me is a bit like Amorim and Ten Hag. Like, you know, Marseille, Brighton. Do we know enough there? Do we really know if he's good enough to manage a big club? You know, very opinionated as well. I don't know about De Zerbi. Marco Silva. I do like Marco Silva. But, again, Fulham to Manchester United, personality-wise, I think he'd get swallowed up. So, for me, it's Enrique, Tuchel or Ancelotti. They fit the profile of, you know, world-class managers who can deal with the aura of Manchester United because they've all managed big clubs. You can't wander out of those three, really. You know, if we want somebody that knows about managing big clubs now, then you've got to go for somebody that's managed PSG, Barcelona, Real Madrid, you know, or a top four club in England or Bayern Munich. And therefore, it's a very small pool. You can't throw De Zerbi and Glasner and Marco Silva into elite world-class managers who aren't going to struggle managing a big club like Man United. Marseille, Fulham, Brighton, Crystal Palace, Eintracht Frankfurt are not Manchester United. You know, you've got to go, if that's your profile, you know, you've got to go for a club, a manager that's managed big clubs. So for me, Ancelotti, Enrique, Tuchel, maybe Nagelsmann because he managed Bayern for a short time. It's not a very big club, and that's where we should be looking because that, you know, ultimately they are best in class. But the question really has to be, do you believe it? Do you actually believe that those are the people that we're going to look at? Because I don't. True lies again. True lies. I really don't. I do not think they are the people that Manchester United are going to look at. I don't. I really don't. Please do share the video if you're watching. We are very close to 1,000 likes as well, so please smash a like on the video, get your comments in. Nearly 12k watching already. Absolute legends you are. So yeah, look, the reason I asked for True Lies on the thumbnail tonight is because I think, in a sense, you may take some of these stories as true because they need to be true. You know, it needs to be true that we're going for people like Enrique and Ancelotti and Tuchel and Nagelsmann because they are elite managers who've got experience of managing big clubs. And it needs to be true, but I actually think it's lies. I don't think there's any evidence. I mean, look, let me put it like this. Do you think if I, in some miraculous world, have a really good relationship with Ancelotti and Ancelotti wants to manage Man United and, you know, I get in contact with Barada and we arrange a meeting, and I'm like, he definitely wants to come to Man United, get to work. Do you really think they take him? I don't. I think it's bullshit. I think there's a lot of stuff coming out of United at the moment, which is, you know, I can't remember what the film is. It's probably David Brent in The Office, isn't it? You know, we can't tell him that. It's not true. Yeah, just tell him it now and they'll forget. You know, and that's a bit how I think United. I think Man United almost, you know, at least David Brent was funny. I actually do think that they are saying stuff to try and calm everybody down. Yeah, we're looking at Ancelotti. We're looking at Tuchel. Can I just give you a little bit of a history lesson? When Man United sacked Mourinho and they got Ole Gunnar Solskjaer in as the interim, Ed Woodward did an interview where he basically said the plan is to use Ole until the summer and then we're going to do a big, massive recruitment of a manager, a top-class manager that befits a club like ours. And he actually did an interview saying that, you know, Ollie's coming in to steady the ship and then we're going to spend the next few months so that in the summer we can do a big, you know, proper search for a top manager for Man United. You know what they did? They gave the contract to Ollie. And it calmed everybody down because everyone was like, Ollie's only here for 6 months and then we're going to get a big manager in the summer again to replace Mourinho. It ended up being Ollie. So I don't believe anything they say when it's coming out that we're looking at Ancelotti or Tuchel or whatever, because both those managers won't be finished until the back end of July. Brazil probably going to do well. England probably going to do well. They're still going to be playing in July. I just don't think they're going to go near a manager that's in the World Cup, personally. And also, Nagelsmann, Tuchel, Ancelotti, all managing in the World Cup, all big personalities. Do you really think what happened last week A big personality manager asked to be given a backing and refused to change his formation. You're out. You're out. If you don't listen to us, you're out. Can you imagine Wilcox working with someone like Ancelotti or Thomas Tuchel or Luis Enrique? It won't work. Won't work. We don't want that model. And the great thing about United and how it's run at the moment is you can go and find their interviews and prove that they won't go for a manager like that. They won't go for a manager that's a manager. They won't go for an experienced manager because they're inexperienced and they're shit. They won't do it. They won't buy players over 26 because Sir Jim Ratcliffe has said that's not what we want to do anymore. Our model is learner drivers. Our model is young players. We are not going to listen. We are not going to go and get that experienced coach. I personally just think it's noise and bluster to spin and put the fires out that are starting at the club at the moment. River says we're going to do like Chelsea. I mean, I actually think Chelsea are in a better position than us, but I know what you mean about going for someone like their current manager, whose name is completely forgetting. I've forgotten the name of the Chelsea man. Rosigne. 1283 Ethan, thanks so much for your super chat. He says Nagelsmann and Tuchel would not work at United. Both failed under our board. Set up at Bayern, that's very similar in setup and power structure. Says 1283 Ethan, and I don't disagree with you. Dom says, I'm happy about Carrick. What do you think about it? And what do you think about Sesko? Is it good enough for Man United? I'm not happy about Carrick. No, I'm not happy about this situation at all. I don't think anybody is. I wouldn't describe myself as happy. I would describe myself as, wanting Man United to win games of football and liking Michael Carrick, but I wouldn't say I'm happy, optimistic, or content. Far from it. I'm very, very unhappy with the situation with the club. I was out tonight actually. I took Seb to this tournament. You won't believe the tournament. He loved it. It was cup stacking, right? So it was a tournament that he was in the top 5 in his school, timed doing this thing I'm going to tell you. And then there was a local schools, inter-schools tournament, right? Which was brilliant. It was great fun. But basically, you have a stack of 3 cups, a stack of 6 cups, and a stack of 3 cups. And you stand with your hands on the table. They start the timer, and you have to take the 3 cups, 2 together, 1 on top. Take the 6, 3 together, 2, 1, and then the final one, 3, 2, 1. And then when you've done them, you have to stack them back down again. And it's how quickly he can do it. He's really quick at it. Don't know where he gets that from, not me. I'd just knock the cups over and say, forget it, you prats. But he's got patience, probably gets it from his mother. Anyway, he went to this tournament tonight, and there was loads of schools there, and it was in like a social club. It was really well organised, but there was a lot of parents there as well. And obviously, it must have been 4 or 5 dads came up to me asking me about Manchester United, and they were all Man United fans. I mean, this was in Birmingham, but they're all Man United fans. So it just shows you, United fans are everywhere, even though we're shit. And they were talking about, where do we go from here, talking about Carrick. And, without even getting into deep conversation, every one of them was ultimately defeated. Even with a smile on their face, when you talk about Man United, everybody's just defeated. There is no optimism around this football club at all. There is no belief around this football club at all. If you can find a Man United fan that's optimistic and excited, it's a rare thing at the moment. And that's what they've done to us. That's what they've done to us. So, look, am I excited about Michael Carrick? No. Am I happy with the situation? No. Do I wish him all the best? Yes. Do I like him? Yes. Do I want us to win on Saturday? God, yes. But, I'm not happy with the situation. Very, 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 very far from it. Indeed. I just remembered something. Lovely. That was something. I don't know whether you watched my video with Terry this morning. I came up with a really good point, and I should have kept it for here. This point. I'm going to carry on with some of your comments, but this point, right? Amongst all the stuff that United have done, remember I said this morning, what a terrible start to 2026. We've sacked the manager. We've interviewed Ollie. Southgate's got massive odds on. And what was the other thing we've done? We're not buying anyone in January. So loads going wrong in the first 2 weeks of 2026. But this one will catch you out, right? And it's sort of been forgotten. And you'll go, oh yeah. Manchester United went head-to-head with Manchester City in late December for Semenyo. £65 million we would have had to pay to get him. So we've got £65 million in our skyrocket pocket, right? Where's that bloody money? Why aren't we using that money? Oh, no, it's because that's the money for Anderson in the summer. Well, fuck off. No, it's not. We weren't buying Semenyo now and then not getting Anderson in the summer. We were buying Semenyo now because it was a player we like and we wanted to take the opportunity. So we've got £60 million this January. This is not being spoken about enough. We literally would have had to give Bournemouth £60 million because that's the release clause. We would have had to give them money. And we tried to do it and they said no, and we've gone, forget midfield. I mean, that's the most incredible thing. You can sort of, well, you can't justify it, but if they say we're not spending any money because we haven't got any, that's one thing. But to say we have got money, but we're not spending it on the midfield is a totally different thing. We've had January transfer windows before where they go, we've got no money, and we've not been able to prove whether they've got it or not. We've got £60 million. We've got £60 million, and we won't spend it on the midfield. We won't spend it. And the amazing thing about £60 million is it doesn't need to be Conor Gallagher. It doesn't need to be Ruben Neves. Now, I would have took either of those players, but it doesn't. If you've got £60 million, you can pretty much go and get a lot of good midfielders. Like you could definitely go to Stuttgart and say £50 million for Angelo Stiller, and they probably would talk to you. And that's not, it's not like spending 40 million on Conor Gallagher, where you go, I'm not so sure. That's a player that probably ends up at Real Madrid in the summer. So, you could do an Enzo Fernandez, really. You could go early on a player that's probably going to go to Real Madrid. So that Semenyo money is there. And United still won't bloody spend it. It's incredible, isn't it? Why do you think that is, by the way? Logically, why do you think it is? Tell you what I think it is. Incompetence with a capital I. But I also think what it is they've gone, no, we went for Semenyo because he's a player we really, really wanted. It was an opportunity in the market that came forward. In the midfield, we want Baleba and we want Anderson. And we can't get them in January, so we're waiting for them in the summer. That's all fine and well if you get them both. But if you get neither, which you will, fuck it up. And you can't wait in football. We're halfway through a running race. You can't say, well, I'll refresh myself and change my trainers for the next race. There's a race going on. And this is what I mean. It's always business before football. If we want someone that builds stability, it's Simone, Stig. I'm not a big fan of Simeone. By the way, 74% of you wouldn't take Glasner. Rav says, but the board doesn't want a manager position. I don't think any world-class manager would sign up to this, Rav. I completely agree. Margot Robbie Official YouTube says, let's get Moyes back. Alexander says, can we please stick to a project? Last two managers, we didn't do that. And look what we got now. Pure shit. Options are getting worse and worse. Well, look, I'm sure there's a multitude of reasons, Alex, and why you wouldn't trust this ownership. But I tell you what, let's pretend they get Luis Enrique, right? I would spend every week shitting myself because what we've seen with Amorim is that somebody can be a year into a big new project and there can be a falling out and they'll sack him. Even if the players don't want it, even if the fans don't want it, they'll sack him. Look, some of you wanted Amorim out, but the majority didn't. Some of the players probably wanted Amorim out, but the majority didn't. He got sacked because the board decided they didn't want him anymore. You can't trust these people. So let's say next season you get Enrique or you get Conte or whoever, and Sir Jim says, I love him. Champers, he's here for the next 6 years. Wouldn't surprise me if he was sacked 6 weeks later. We just can't trust this board anymore. They've basically told so many lies or half-truths or been proven wrong so many times. But how can you trust their next project when they've abandoned this one? And Ten Hag. Ten Hag, we're backing him with... I mean, the Ten Hag one, in a way, didn't get the scrutiny it should have done because everyone was excited about Amorim. But they didn't sack Ten Hag. They backed him. They gave him £300 million and then they sacked him 3 months later. You just can't trust these prats. You can't trust even if you're on board with the project or not, you can't trust them. We want the best manager we can, the best coaches, the best director of football, but Glinios won't pay out for the best, says Mike JW. Hope you're doing well. Me, the lemon lover, says Carrick being a good midfielder. Thoughts on De Ligt and Heaven centre-back with Martinez in the midfield? Give us some sort of spine. Mate, I've seen a few people say this, and we don't know what Michael Carrick's going to do, but Lisandro Martinez at the base of a midfield 3 works better than Lisandro Martinez in a midfield 2, and a midfield 2 works quite well. I mean, just sitting him in front of the back 4, it might work. It might work. I mean, I don't know whether we'll do it, but it might work. De Zerbi would be my number 1, but sadly United wants a yes man. Yeah, well, I agree with your biggest ball knowledge. De Zerbi is not a yes man. He's very, very mouthy, so I can't see it being him. John says the board doing eeny, meeny, miny, mo for Southgate. I still want Tuchel, says Kiel. Barcelona had 60 to 80 million for Nico in the summer. If we give Rashford for less than 28, it just shows how incompetent the board is, says River. And I was thinking today, says Andre Gomez, Sir Jim is the one instigating that we sign only cheap young players. Remember how he said he wants to find the next Mbappe? Yeah, 100% Andre. You know, Jason Wilcox has some power, but he has to get signed off. I wouldn't be surprised if Sir Jim Radcliffe has to get signed off by Joel Glazer as well. I mean, he only owns 28%. Riaz, welcome to the Mumbers Club. How about the joke news linking Alonso to United? I mean, look, I do like Xavi Alonso, but he plays a back 3, and you know he's an ex-Liverpool player. I just can't see it. I don't trust anything the team say anymore. They're two-faced. Isn't that right? Says Nizam. Thank you, pal. Thanks for your super chat. And he was talking about the 58th message against Ineos, as for Rajaf. Julian Nagelsmann is interested in the job after the World Cup. Yeah, we've done that one as well. Appreciate that. Got a few more comments just to catch up on here. Would getting Glasner be meaning U-turn on 3-4-2-1? Says Ollie. Well, you know what? There is nothing wrong with playing a 3-4-3. There's nothing wrong with playing a 3-4-3. I don't really think it was a big issue with Amorim. You know, we've seen the last 2 games playing a 4-3-3. We're still shit. The midfield is crap. So we never really got to see what the 3-4-3 was because we didn't buy midfielders. And we won't get to see how good the 4-3-3 is unless we buy midfielders. So, look, if we went with Glasner and we bought in midfielders, it could work. I wouldn't get locked up on formation, really, Ollie. However, the formation became such a scapegoat over the last 12 months that the club would be morons to recruit another 3-4-3 manager knowing the problem the formation chat caused for 12 months. It would be stupid. I mean, I don't really think it matters, personally, but the last 12 months has been constantly talking about formation. So it would seem silly to ask Amorim to go to a back 4, which they shouldn't have done, and then sack him and bring in another 3-4-3 coach. So I think it'll have to be back 4, yeah. And there's no point bringing Glasner in if he's not a back 4 coach either. You know, you're asking him to do something he hasn't done. Does anyone even care with that poison hanging over us? Carrick won't get a bounce. Reality will hit hard. We'll get shredded. Players are as fed up as we are, and so are the Old Trafford staff, says Andre. They're all smiling today, though, mate. You know, winning team photos. Have you not seen it? You know, Luke Shaw's hugging everyone. Everyone's happy and smiling. So, you know, maybe we will get a bounce. Hope we do. We need to beat City. River says, this board is so high on themselves, they will never let a manager disagree with them. That's the big problem. Exactly. I think we need a game with empty stadium, not protest. A protest doesn't affect the Glazers. What are your thoughts? Well, no, I think empty stadium is empty minds, if I'm being blunt. And I don't want to offend people, but you're never going to empty Old Trafford. If you've ever been to a game at Old Trafford, and I'm talking even in the late 90s and the early noughties, so we're talking 20, 30 years ago, Old Trafford has a very transient support. Obviously, it's a hardcore, and there's many thousands of regulars, but there are also a lot of people who are, you know, corporately there or there as a day tripper. You know, it might be their first time, or, you know, once or twice a season. You're never going to get these people not to go in. You'll never empty Old Trafford. You might half empty it. I mean, we there was that protest in the last couple of years, wasn't there, where people didn't go in for 15 minutes or something, and you could see some seats, but in 75,000, it wasn't. A couple of thousand doesn't look that bad. So we'll never empty Old Trafford. That's not going to work. You know, it won't happen. Somebody said months ago you could get a couple of thousand United fans who, basically chain arms around Old Trafford 20 minutes, an hour before kickoff, and basically have to be physically, manhandled to break the chain. And that could stop people going in and cause chaos and this, that and the other. But, you're never going to empty Old Trafford. Is Sesko good enough for Man United, says Dom? I mean, look, I hope so. I don't think it's a conversation for now. He's a young talent. He's a bit like Dorgu and Le Mans and Yoro. There's a lot of young players that you hope are going to be good enough, but the environment's got to be there. M says, thank you, Mark. They should consider bringing Ruben back in the summer, allowing him to start a new chapter properly. I mean, United are shit, and they can do many, 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 many strange things. But I really do not think that they are going to bring Ruben Amorim back. I don't think that. Glad you realise the spin this is. The main thing, we have interim manager, Semenyo money there, and they don't want to spend it. Look, Ray, I think if anybody's going to take anything from this show tonight, remember the Semenyo money. That was there. If he'd have chosen United, we would have wrote a cheque for £60 million. Where's that money? And you can't say, well, no, it's the Anderson money. No, it wasn't. We were, if we'd have got Semenyo and Anderson wanted to come, we'd buy him as well. And that'd be another cheque for 80 or 90 million pounds. So there's 60 million quid there that we've decided we're not going to spend. And I'm not going to get into it tonight, but I thought it was criminal not to buy a midfielder in the summer. And it's cost us. To not take the first opportunity to correct that mistake is incredible. Like, most of us were demanding a midfielder in the summer and said it would hurt us, and it has hurt us. And they still won't do it. Wilcott's probably used it on clown outfits, says River. And SZ says, it really shows that Ineos Glazers won't appoint high-profile managers, but only uprising managers to hide how inexperienced and clueless they are. Exactly. Indeed, WWE, says Keel. Could you request Sir Jim for an interview, Mark? Says Axe. Mate, he ain't never going to do an interview. Never going to do an interview with anybody that's going to actually put him on the spot. He's not going to do it. And he definitely wouldn't do it with us. The manager is irrelevant now. No manager will do well at United. The whole club is broken, says Sean Turner. Hope you're doing well, Sean, and I completely agree. I think the Glazers have given Ineos till summer to succeed. If they fail, they're out. Then Tuchel gets the power he wanted, says Keel. Well, I hope that's true. When are you going to do a door giveaway, says DML? Nagelsmann and Tuchel would not work at United. Both failed under our board. Well, we've done that from Ethan. Look, I think De Zerbi's too mouthy. Tuchel's too mouthy. Nagelsmann's too mouthy. Enrique is mouthy, and so is Ancelotti. I mean, none of these people can manage Man United under this current regime because they're too intelligent and they're too demanding, and they wouldn't work under Prats. So I would rule all those out. And then again, that means you'd have to rule out the article. I think you end up with someone like Glasner, maybe Pochettino. I wouldn't rule out Pochettino. I said this to you last week. Do not forget about Pochettino. Pochettino isn't as mouthy as everybody else. Pochettino will come in and work under them. Pochettino is a name to keep in mind. I still wouldn't rule out Southgate. And obviously, I think Glasner's got a chance as well. We'll say Enrique's a good manager, try and get him, and Jim and Ineos will employ Enrique Iglesias instead and have discos. That's how incompetent they are, says Daniel. Well, if they got Enrique Iglesias, he could be the manager, but also they could save money on the Christmas party as well. He'll just keep saying it because he could do the singing. He'll just keep saying at the end of the day if you interview him. Waste of time, says Margot. Everyone's smiling at the circus when the clowns are watching. Match day will all come down crushing as well as the applause for Carrick fades to the wind, says Andreas. I've got a good feeling about Saturday. I think a Manchester derby isn't a bad game to have first. I'd be more worried if we were at home to somebody like Everton, actually. The problem is not the manager. We know that. The players and the board is the problem. We all have a feeling that we can do a better job than the board. That's bad, says Stig. Well, we all could. Do you think this could be the last nail in the Glazers' Glinios coffin? No decent manager would come on board with what happened with Amorim, says me. Well, I think they would, but I don't think they'll go for that. Does anyone else yell at the top of their lungs, hello, everybody, when the show starts, says Dino. I don't know why it's loud at the start of the show. I think it's something to do with the show starting. Hello, everybody. Well, I suppose it's probably that. It's how I just did it there. Maybe I need to start with, hello, everybody. I just can't help myself. I just can't help myself. I just can't help myself. I just keep doing it really, really loud. Yeah. I just can't help it. You know? Can't help it. Just keeps happening. Don't know what it is. Anyway, we've got a watch-along tonight. We've got Chelsea against Arsenal on the on That's Football. It was a brilliant watch-along last night, and I'm going to have another beer as well. Really, really good. I just want to make sure I have covered everything off. I bet I haven't. This is the trouble. I don't like to have loads of news items on an evening show because you're also good at bringing up conversation points. Done that. Oh, there was something about Ollie from Chris Wheeler saying United were uneasy about leaks from Solskjaer's camp with speculation around him being the favourite, not driven from inside the club. By the time Ollie held talks on Saturday, momentum had already shifted firmly towards Carrick. I did hear that. I got told that on Saturday. And I didn't bother talking about it because we couldn't verify it from anybody, and you don't want to get it wrong. But there was a lot of talk on Saturday morning that there was PR being done around Ollie, and a name was mentioned, and I can't remember the name, but it was almost like, I don't know whether he'd done it or whatever, but it was like a PR campaign around Ollie that the club were denying they had anything to do. Personally, I don't buy into that. I mean, maybe there was a bit of PR behind Ollie. Maybe it was a PR exercise. But Man United interviewed him. And you know, whatever you want to say, we never should have interviewed him. So the fact that we interviewed him, we've got to own that. I'm getting the name Potter, says River. Oh, God, forgot about Potter. Mark, mate, we need a proper gaffer. I'd go for Enrique or Don Carlo. Probably unrealistic, though. Probably get Glasner or Howe. Both play a back four as well, Salford. Thanks for keeping us sane with your content. Can we get a shout out to the brave people of Iran fighting for freedom? Over 12,000 dead in 3 days, including an ex-footballer and his wife, says Farid. Well, you've had your shout out, mate, because I've just read your message there. So, you know, thoughts and prayers with everybody involved in that, certainly. Glasner spoke out against Palace board for not strengthening the squad as well, says Shane. I am doing a watch along for Arsenal-Chelsea, Mason, yes. Okay, I will head over there. Thank you, everybody, for watching. I will be with you in a couple of minutes on That's Football. Great show tonight. Really appreciate you as always. Make sure you've smashed a like on the video and subscribed as well. And I'll see you over there in a minute. Take care.